Hello, YouTube. This is Largo64 with part 10 of Letters from the Earth by Mark Twain. We left off with a description of the terrible depredations of the tsetse fly in Africa. I will. It is he whom the church and people call our Father in heaven, who has invented the fly and sent him to inflict his dreary, long misery and melancholy and wretchedness and decay of body and mind upon a poor savage who has done that great criminal no harm. There isn't a man in the world who doesn't pity that poor black sufferer, and there isn't a man that wouldn't make him whole if he could. To find the one person who has no pity for him, you must go to heaven. To find the one person who is able to heal him and couldn't be persuaded to do it, you must go to the same place. There is only one father cruel enough to afflict his child with that horrible disease, only one. Not all the eternities can produce another one. Do you like reproachful, poetical indignations warmly expressed? Here's one, hot from the heart of a slave. Man's inhumanity to man makes countless thousands mourn. I will tell you a pleasant tale which has in it a touch of pathos. A man got religion and asked the priest what he must do to be worthy of his new estate. The priest said, "Imitate our Father in heaven. Learn to be like him." The man studied his Bible diligently and thoroughly and understandingly, and then, with prayers for heavenly guidance, instituted his imitations. He tricked his wife into falling downstairs, and she broke her back and became a paralytic for life. He betrayed his brother into the hands of a sharper, who robbed him of his all and landed him in the almshouse. He inoculated one son with hookworms, another with the sleeping sickness, another with gonorrhea. He furnished one daughter with scarlet fever and ushered her into her teens, deaf, dumb, and blind for life. And after helping a rascal seduce the remaining one, he closed his doors against her, and she died in a brothel, cursing him. Then he reported to the priest, who said that was no way to imitate his Father in heaven. The convert asked wherein he had failed, but the priest changed the subject and inquired what kind of weather he was having up his way. Letter number 8. Man is without a doubt the most interesting fool there is, also the most eccentric. He hasn't a single written law in his Bible or out of it which has any but one purpose and intention: to limit or defeat the law of God. He can seldom take a plain fact and get any but a wrong meaning out of it. He cannot help this. It is the way the confusion he calls his mind is constructed. Consider the things he concedes and the curious conclusions he draws from them. For instance, he concedes that God made man, made him without man's desire of privity. This seems to plainly and indisputably make God and God alone responsible for man's acts, but man denies this. He concedes that God has made the angels perfect, without blemish, and immune from pain and death, and that he could have been similarly kind to man if he had wanted to, but denies that he was under any moral obligation to do it. He concedes that man has no moral right to visit the child of his begetting with wanton cruelties, painful diseases, and death, but refuses to limit God's privileges of this sort with the children of his begetting. The Bible and man's statutes forbid murder, adultery, fornication, lying, treachery, robbery, oppression, and other crimes, but contend that God is free of these laws and has a right to break them when he will. He concedes that God gives to each man his temperament, his disposition at birth. He concedes that man cannot, by any process, change this temperament, but must remain always under its dominion. Yet, if it be full of dreadful passions in one man's case and barren of them in another man's, it is right and rational to punish the one for his crimes and reward the other for abstaining from crime. There, let us consider these curiosities. Temperament, disposition. Take two extremes of temperament, the goat and the tortoise. Neither of these creatures makes his own temperament, but is born with it, like man, and can no more change it than man can. Temperament is the law of God written in the heart of every creature by God's own hand, and must be obeyed, and will be obeyed in spite of all restricting or forbidding statutes, let them emanate whence they may. Very well. Lust is the dominant feature of the goat's temperament. The law of God is in its heart, and it must obey it, and will obey it the whole day long in the rutting season, without stopping to eat or drink. If the Bible said to the goat, "Thou shalt not fornicate, thou shalt not commit adultery," even sap-headed man would recognize the foolishness of the prohibition, and would grant that the goat ought not to be punished for obeying the law of his Maker. Yet he thinks it right and just that a man should be put under the prohibition. All men, all alike. On its face, this is stupid, for by temperament, which is the real law of God, many men are goats and can't help committing adultery when they get a chance, whereas there are numbers of men who, by temperament, can keep their purity and let an opportunity go by if the woman lacks in attractiveness. But the Bible doesn't allow adultery at all, whether a person can help it or not. It allows no distinction between goat and tortoise. The excitable goat, the emotional goat that has to have some adultery every day or fade and die, and the tortoise that cold, calm Puritan that takes a treat only once in 2 years and then goes to sleep in the midst of it and doesn't wake up for 60 days. No lady goat is safe from criminal assault, even on the Sabbath day, when there is a gentleman goat within 3 miles to leeward of her, and nothing in the way but a fence 14 feet high, whereas neither the gentleman tortoise nor the lady tortoise is ever hungry enough for solemn joys of fornication to be willing to break the Sabbath to get them. Now, according to man's curious reasoning, the goat has earned punishment and the tortoise praise. "Thou shalt not commit adultery" is a command which makes no distinction between the following persons. They are all required to obey it: children at birth, children in the cradle, school children, youths and maidens, fresh adults, older ones, men and women of 40, of 50, of 60, of 70, of 80, of 90, of 100. The command does not distribute its burden equally, and cannot. It is not hard upon the 3 sets of children. It is harder, still harder upon the next 3 sets, cruelly hard. It is blessedly softened to the next 3 sets. It has now done all the damage it can, and might as well be put out of commission, yet with comical imbecility it is continued, and the 4 remaining estates are put under its crushing ban. Poor old wrecks, they couldn't disobey if they tried. And they think, because they holily refrain from adulterating each other, they will get praise for it, which is nonsense. For even the Bible knows enough to know that if the oldest veteran there could get his lost heyday back again for an hour, he would cast that commandment to the winds and ruin the first woman he came across, even though she were an entire stranger. It is as I have said. Every statute in the Bible and in the law books is an attempt to defeat a law of God. In other words, an unalterable and indestructible law of nature. These people's God has shown them by a million acts that he respects none of the Bible's statutes. He breaks every one of them himself, adultery and all. The law of God, as quite plainly expressed in woman's construction, is this: there shall be no limit put upon your intercourse with the other sex sexually at any time of life. The law of God, as quite plainly expressed in man's construction, is this: during your entire life you shall be under inflexible limits and restrictions sexually. During 23 days in every month, in absence of pregnancy, from the time a woman is 7 years old till she dies of old age, she is ready for action and competent. As competent as the candlestick is to receive the candle. Competent every day, competent every night. Also, she wants that candle, yearns for it, longs for it, hankers after it, as commanded by the law of God in her heart. But man is only briefly competent, and only then in the moderate measure applicable to the word in his sex's case.